It's been a long time. I shouldn't have left you without a blind review to get through. Sorry about that. You don't know. But I mean, in all honesty, nothing really significant worth reviewing has come out the last couple of weeks. So I kind of been in limbo because I just don't want to be reviewing projects along the same vein. I want to have some variation. So I kind of was like, and I know I did the Scarface throwback review, and I was planning to do a bunch more throwback reviews, more towards the 50th anniversary of hip hop. But with this drought of redundancy, I'm like, to hell with it. Let's dive deeper back into the realm of the awesome golden era that was the 90s. And last time, we got into some southern ignorance with Scarface the Diary. This time, we're going to get into some West Coast gangster shit, courtesy of the mighty, mighty Death Row, when they were in their prime and then some. What we're going to be talking about in today's blind review is in the realm and the time when soundtracks were like rain falling from the sky. And the funny thing was, 98% of them were quality. We have the creme de la creme of soundtracks from the creme de la creme of West Coast labels in regards to gangster rap, Death Row Records. And what I'm talking about is Murda Was the Case soundtrack, featuring various artists on Death Row. Now, if you were around when the Chronic dropped, then Doggy Style dropped, then Above the Rim soundtrack dropped, then yeah, it was all about Biggie and Nas and Wu Tang and Black Moon and all that good shit. But to certain of us who weren't just trapped in New York, there was this whole plethora of West Coast gangster shit. And at the helm of it was the Death Row dudes, Snoop, Dre, Dog Pound, Lady of Rage, RBX, yada yada yada. And they just kept dropping heat after heat after heat. I mean, Doggy Style was actually one of the first albums that Jamaicans on a whole embraced, because before, with the exception of myself and a couple of my brethren and whatnot, hip hop wasn't really a thing down here. But like Doggy Style and Ready to Die were the two albums I would say that, shattered the glass ceiling as far as making hip hop accessible to Jamaica. And like I remember being in high school and all my brethren them know Doggy Style album from back to back, word for word, and would recite it on a regular basis. So anything that was Snoop related or Dre related or Death Row related, we clung to that in the same realm that we clung to Wu Tang shit. That was the new it at the time in our circle. And man, I remember it like it was yesterday, even though it's almost 30 years or 29 years. Yeah, I was in high school and it was the fall, and I saw a commercial on BT said Murder Was the Case soundtrack. See a fucking ambulance flipping over, and I was like, wait, this is a movie? Oh, Zine. But that was soundtrack? No, funny enough, to this day, I haven't seen that movie. Like, that movie is harder to find, and anyway, let me not even get into that. It's a hard to find movie, but the soundtrack, I ended up getting it really quickly through my brethren Sharif, because his dad was away when the commercial dropped. So he called him dad and he's like, yo, please get this soundtrack for me. And he ended up getting the tape. And back then, we had a thing where, okay, he couldn't afford all the albums. So each of us would buy albums and rotate them as far as, okay, I have something, I'll dub it from you. You have something, then you can vice versa and so on and so on. So Sharif get this tape, and literally the man father come off the plane, unpacked, gave him the shit. he called me, was playing this album to me on the phone, and I was like, yo, dub this shit for me immediately. I'm coming to check it in an hour. And when I got that tape, I was like, yo. I mean, all right, in all fairness, it wasn't the impact that the Chronic and Doggy Style was, mainly because it wasn't a fully comprehensive project and Dre didn't produce and a whole bunch of elements. But what was established before was more than apparent, right out the gate. And this soundtrack does have some serious joints on it. Like, yeah, there are a couple of R&B songs and a slight dip towards the end as far as the hip hop shit, but I would still, without a shadow of a doubt, say that this is a classic because the songs that hit, them hit like Mike Tyson in them prime, like them hit hard as fuck. Like you can't go wrong with this, and like revisiting it, it lives up and it stands the test of time. And the other thing is, it hits so different after living in LA and actually experiencing the vibe that this music was made on. Even though it was a different decade, it was still in LA, and certain main elements that makes LA remain, and it always reflected in the music, but like being there just make it hit different, like I said. But anyway, time to get into part of the review where I break down the thing song for song, and this is gonna be kind of different breakdown because like I'm very, very, very familiar with this, so it's like I'm not going to just scrape the surface and give a general idea. I'm going to speak on every song for well, most of the songs, most of the significant songs for the most part, and just give my opinion on them. So we start with the first song out the gate, which is Murda Was the Case, the OG from Doggy Style, but it's a remix. And they had a video for this. Video was pretty dope because it kind of followed the song word for word as far as what you're seeing on the screen. But in all honesty, as dope as this is, because this is beyond dope, but it can't touch the original. That's just my opinion anyway. Maybe people like this version more than the original, but like the original is just it for me. Like even when you perform the song live, you always perform the original after this came out. So I mean, it is what it is. So nice way to open it, considering Murda Was the Case soundtrack. So start with Murda Was the Case. But then I remember when I hear, I was like, oh shit, Dr. Dre, Ice Cube have a song after all the NBA, NWA shit. This is gonna be dope. So I was like, yeah, all right, cool. So then we have Natural Born Killers. And the intro, I remember hearing that intro when I was young, and from the days of like Ice-T and Ice Cube and shit, like I always knew the hood in LA was grimy as fuck, but like the whole thing of dude and them girl walking, and them just walking through the neighborhood and somebody started, hey nigga, and all the dude said is, hey, why you fuck with me? Dude responded, fuck you nigga, cause I can. Bam. I was like, Jesus Christ. And on one hand, it sounds over exaggerated, but then if you go to LA, you know how shit is. That can and will and has happened. So, eerie ass intro before the song even starts, and then you hear this beat come in that is like sinister, horrific, serial killer, blood, guts everywhere, violence, like beats seldom produce a bunch of words like as I just strung out, but that is what that beat induces. And then that's just half of the massacre, because then you have Dre and Ice Cube in them prime just talking some vicious. I mean, you can't have a song called Natural Born Killers and talk about roses and grocery shopping. So yeah, and like the video for this shit was crazy. Like they didn't even show it on I think MTV did show it once, but then like BT never showed it at all. And then like at the end with the whole sniper and shit, like yo, This was when creativity was creativity. And yeah, second song out the gate, and we know right out the bat, say, hey, we're cooking with gas. And as the first listener, when you heard this the first time back in 1994, you're grinning ear to ear, like, yo, this is the shit. Like, we're not supposed to approve of violence and ignorance, but we're young and we didn't know no better, and it was dope. And in all honesty, I didn't glorify it. It kind of was a cautionary tale to me, so that is that. But anyway, next song is What Would You Do by the Dog Pound. This is a pretty popular song, like even outside of West Coast realm and people who dug this kind of shit. Like I heard a lot of people bumping this song. It was like all over BT. I think it topped the charts as far as Rap City and a bunch of other things it was on. Like this was hitting hard, and it was another installation of what it was like to kind of have a prequel of what's to come when the Dog Pound was going to drop them a full length solo. And quality song, gangster shit to the fullest, like Dog Pound in them prime, right? Yes, sir. So then we'll move on to the next song, 21 Jump Street, featuring Trey D. I think this is the first time Trey D was heard on wax. I could be wrong, but this is this song reminds me like something that could have been on Doggy Style. It even have the same DJ Easy dude starting it off, and Snoop and Trey D do a back and forth about Long Beach and how shit was coming up over a ridiculously G'd up G-Funk beat. Like again, this was when all that shit was in its prime and grade A. So big ups to this song. This is where like the album was just bam, bam, bam. It hasn't hit any like stumbles yet. We'll just keep going. And that keep continuing into the fifth song, One More Day by Nate Dogg. Nate Dogg's solo songs. I remember thinking to myself when I saw the track listing, because Nate Dogg was always an interesting character. Because he was like a gangster singer which has never been heard before, and everybody used to always wonder what would Nate Dogg's solo shit sound like. And One More Day gives us the opportunity to experience that. And it is a soulful, G'd up song, but it have heart and it have reality and it have a very grim painted picture of growing up young in the struggle and being misled by the bullshit. And I just wish that more of Nate Dogg's future shit that came out was on the level of this, because it had so much potential and it fit in perfectly with the array of seriously dope ass songs that are on this soundtrack. So then we'll move on to the What the Hell Are You Doing Here song, Harvest of the World by Jewel. Now, I love Jewel as a person and as an artist. R.I.P. sister, and that kind of broke my heart. But like, what the hell is this? And why the hell is this on a soundtrack called Murda Was the Case? It's not that it's a bad song. It's a well-produced song, live instrumentation, laid back type shit. Jewel going upon her vocals and whatnot. But it just fit out a place in the palette of the rest of the shit that's on this soundtrack. And I know the whole premise of a soundtrack is various artists and there's variety, but in those events, I don't have a problem with it. But like I said, this just stick out like a sore thumb, and you listen to it once to kind of just get the feel of what it was. But I guarantee you, for the most part, if you listen to this as soon as this song come, skip. And yeah, goodly rightfully so, because the next song is what I call back to business. When you're driving somewhere and you make a wrong turn and you're like, oh shit, I'm lost. And then you find your way back and you're like, yeah, now I know where we're going. So that's the case when you get back to track 7, which is Who Got Some Gangster Shit, which is a Dog Pound song featuring Lil Styles. And Lil Styles' verse to open it is him paying homage to Ice Cube 6 in the morning by flipping it to do his own thing. And this is all over classic gangster rap backdrop that is typical West Coast shit. You know, it kind of have familiar elements in the drums, but then it have that just eerie, you know, whiny, whistly sound that came to be the Death Row signature sound at that point. And Dazzle Corrupt come in and do them thing. Snoop kind of come in and do him little thing. Dope song. And besides the Jewel song, yeah, this is flawless, top tier work. So then we'll move on to an interesting song, Come When I Call by Danny Boy. Now at the time, nobody never knew nothing about Danny Boy's sexuality or anything. And it's weird because the new version that them have on streaming platforms is a remix that in my opinion sound like crap compared to the first and original version that was on the actual original pressings. And the beat for that shit is more appropriate to what he's saying. But even though it is a way better version than what we have on this present version, I still can't rock with it because of the fact that, yo, it's like a gay man singing about pum pum is like me singing about what my neighborhood looks like now. I mean, I've been blind for almost 10 years and a lot has changed. I have no business to comment on what it looks like because that's not my realm. And that is why Danny Boy, as a gay man, even though he was a closeted gay man at the time, don't have no business singing about pum pum. Anyway, I say that to say this, and that's out of the way. We'll move on to another song that when I heard this beat for the first time, I was like, yo! And that is Better Recognized by Sam Snead featuring Dr. Dre. Now, this beat is harder than me finding a pencil and it drop on the ground and roll. This beat is harder than me picking my clothes out when they don't have any labels that I can feel on them. This is harder than me knowing what that girl talking to me across the street look like. Just hard as fuck. Now, Sam Snead, not really saying nothing significant as a MC, it's just some braggadocio shit. But the star and main attraction of this whole show right here is the beat. This beat knocks. Can't go wrong with Better Recognized. Like right out the gate. I mean, on the cassette, this was what started side B. And I was like, shit. Yeah, you done know. Okay, so now we have a song that has no right to exist and was way ahead of time as far as just grimy ass, thugged out hood R&B with a gangster twist on it. Like, this was in 1994 and it was kind of like what R&B would eventually evolve into right now, where it leaves nothing to the imagination and it is very, very explicit when it comes to talking about intercourse and what have you. And yo, Beat, Corrupt, KC, JoJo, and the chorus. Yes, the chorus. If you come up, get done up inside, you let me run up. Boy, I had a thing for this song. This is still one of my favorite R&B songs of all time, and that's only right because I am a pervert, so it would be appropriate for me to be drawn towards something like that. So yeah, love this song. One of my top songs on this album of many top songs. I mean, it's hard, but like I said, I love this song. 11 will have Woman to Woman by Jewel. Now, I'll let this slide because it's a cover of a classic and it is done very well. And if anybody could have do it justice, it's Jewel. So I don't really need to talk on it because everybody know the original classic Woman to Woman and it's a cover. So yeah, anyway, moving on. We get to track 12, Dollars and Cents by DJ Quick. Now, by far, this is my favorite song on this album, on this soundtrack. Like the beat and the fact that this was in the realm when diss tracks were actually hard as fuck and just vicious. And this was him going back at MC8. And it was just 3 verses of slaughteration, brutality. But it does have one of the gayest lines or gayest parts of a song in the history of this genre we call hip hop. And I don't know why I'm saying that. Like, I just gonna tell you from now. Skip the 3rd verse if you're listening to this song. I mean, you used to most songs having 2 verses any day, every day. I mean, these days. So just make sure you don't want to hear what him say, because if you never heard it before and it can go just come out of nowhere, you're gonna be like, oh, what the fuck. But if you hear the song and you know exactly what I'm talking about, then you know exactly what I'm talking about, and you know why I said what I said. But yeah, Dollars and Cents, A+, Gold Star, my favorite song on this soundtrack. 13, The Eulogy, Slim Capone and CPO. 2 death row artists that never really get a shine more than so. I mean, you hear about them pop up 1 and 2 times on, I think CPO was on Tupac album if I'm not mistaken, but like, dude has a really, really dope voice, and it sounds kind of like this, and it's like he's really talking some smooth and silk shit. I mean, like, it's dope, and I wonder what happened to him. Like, where the hell is he? Really sad that so much talent out of that era just went poof. We don't know what the fuck happened to them, where the fuck them gone. This beat is dark, eerie. Them talking about some street shit where it's like, yo, you can't trust your brethren because you the dirt with him, you'll come up, you'll get money, and then him just turn upon you and you're forced to do something what you don't want to do because, you know, it's either you or him. And it is what it is. And I think after you play this song, you can kind of turn off the soundtrack. Because from here, unless you have the cassette version, which would have an extra bonus song called Hot Ones, which is hard as fuck. I don't remember who do it though, so I apologize for that. But these last 2 songs, especially the last song, I was like, ugh. But I still consider this a damn classic because of how significant the songs that knock are. And if you take off the songs that are just, you still have, we'll call it 11 extremely amazing songs. So Horny by B Rizal is the opposite of the Jodeci and Dog Pound song. Like, I know what they were trying to do, but it didn't age well. And I liked it at the time back in the day, but listening back to this, I'm like, yeah, I think I'm feeling kinda horny. No. That's not sensuous in any way, shape, form, or fashion. So yeah, like I said, you can cut the album off, cut the soundtrack off after the song that came before this. And we have the final song, East Side Niggas by Young Soldiers. Now, this was probably a new sign group that Death Row was like, oh yeah, we need some shooters or whatever, because like them, it's like a mediocre West Coast song over the No Vaseline sample that has been used a million times at that point. So it's just significant of insignificance, of more insignificance. And yeah, I guess that had a quota to fill, and yeah, bless that song. But overall, I highly recommend this soundtrack to anybody who hasn't heard it, to anybody who is like interested in a time capsule in an era when gangster shit was like really, really at its finest. I suggest this album without hesitation. If you know this album and you haven't listened to it in a while, go back and revisit and rekindle the memories and the feelings you had when you heard this shit back in the days, because It's just one of them joints, man. Like most of the songs and most of the albums and most of the soundtracks that came out in the 90s, and one would like to say that, oh yeah, it's nostalgia, but no. It is, yeah, but that nostalgia lasts to a certain extent, and good music is just good music, and timeless music is just timeless music, and his soundtrack, man, yeah, definitely don't sleep on this. This is a reason behind me now going to go probably dig up a whole bunch of classic shit, because it's like I'm in that vibe now. It's like, okay, nothing new in my realm coming out that's sparking my interest. Okay, let me appropriately go back. 50th anniversary of hip hop coming up, so it is what it is. But anyway, you done know. Thank you for listening to I and I. I promise I will try not to leave a gap with the reviews anymore. You done know. If you haven't subscribed, subscribe, like the video, comment, share. You done know. Big up to all my co-peoples from the Culture Corner. Respect to everyone. Bless up. I have spoken.